Hi, guys. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of The Law and You. I am your host, attorney at law Shellon, Washington, licensed in the state of New York, and also licensed in my home country, Guyana, and in Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome, guys. It's my pleasure to be here once again. Last week I was out of the jurisdiction, but I know I made provisions to ensure that you guys have this show as usual. Today, I'm going to bring you something exciting. I want us this week to speak about something that we've talked about before, but this week I want to impress on it because I feel like a lot of people are taking chances on it, and you need to protect yourself so that when issues arise, you will be covered and you wouldn't have to worry. But if you don't take the advice and you don't act on it now, tomorrow might be too late. And then you find yourself in a situation where you are going to reminisce and say, well, if only I had listened, or if only I had taken that advice. Today, we're going to talk about protecting your assets with a pre-nuptials. I've spoken about post-nuptials, and I've spoken about prenuptials before. I've spoken about trust. I've given you so many ways of protecting your assets. But sometimes I know people just gloss over these things. And, sometimes you have to remind people so that they will keep this type of information in mind moving forward in their life. So let's get into it. Today, we'll talk about using the prenuptial to protect pre-acquired assets. Now, what is pre-acquired assets? Some people might wonder what is that type of asset if you haven't paid attention to my show in the past. A pre-acquired or pre-marital asset is an asset that you acquired prior to getting into a relationship, a marital relationship with someone. And I've told you in my last two videos before this that one of the things people are blinded about and they don't recognize about a marriage is that a marriage is a financial contract. If it weren't so, no one would force anyone to get married. There wouldn't be anything to direct you and to distribute your assets at the end of that marital relationship. And you would be able to keep exactly what you went into the marriage with, or exactly what you put into the marriage. But because a marriage is a financial contract, which puts people under a financial obligation, that's why the law tells you what you shouldn't and what you should do with those assets. It's because it's a financial contract. And that's why if people remain in a relationship where they're never married to that person, it's a situation where you'll never have to face the tape with the court for the court to tell you what you should or you shouldn't do with your assets. And I tell you, some people, it's best to live in a relationship with them and never to marry them. You can commit in a committed living relationship, or you could have a life partner, but some people are not marriageable for the simple fact that if that marriage doesn't last, they can be problems. So a lot of times you could even do things to think people that you're entering into a marriage with them, but you never get married to them and they don't even know, because sometimes it's better not to ever marry some people. They're not worth your time. Trust me on this one. I've seen too many things in my career to make me understand that a lot of times it's better to make somebody believe you're married to them and you're never even married to them. So let's get into it. How do I protect my pre-acquired or my pre-marital assets? My assets that I had acquired prior to getting married to someone. How do I keep that asset safe to ensure that nothing ever happens to it, regardless of what happened in the relationship, regardless if the person decides that they're going to walk, or if the person decides they're going to stay with me for the rest of my life or the rest of their lives? The goal is, and your ultimate goal should always be, to make sure that you protect your assets at all costs, not so that your asset is exposed to being distributed or divided. Because one of the things is, those assets has to take you into retirement, and you do not want to start from scratch. I remember once I had a client, he was going through a divorce, and he was telling me he just wanted to hand over all of the property to his wife that he was about to divorce. And I said to him, I would not allow you to do that, even if you wanted to, because I wouldn't want you to walk and later on blame me for the fact that you decided to walk out of a relationship empty handed and then have to start from scratch. Starting from scratch is never a good idea, people. I will tell you. Only a fool rush in where a wise man feared to tread. Starting over from scratch, never a good idea. So it's better to plan your life in advance. Always, before you get into a marriage with somebody, plan your life. Determine what you want to happen, if the marriage lasts, if it doesn't last. Because I'll tell you this, you can know what is going to happen as it relates to yourself. You can always plan for yourself, but you can't plan for somebody. You can't determine how that person is going to feel in that relationship. A lot of people use the other party to depend on for love and affection and to make them happy. And when they feel that those needs are not being met, the person is not making them happy, they walk. But the real purpose of a marriage is not, you should not, nobody should depend on somebody to make them happy. Happiness comes from within you. And once people learn that, it makes it easy, so that you're not going to be walking in and out of relationships because you think somebody is supposed to make you happy. It doesn't happen like that. So you can always plan in advance for your own life because you know where you're going, but you can't make unreasonable expectations or plan for the other person because you don't know what that person's needs are. You don't know what frequency that person is on. You don't know what level that person is on. So you can only plan for yourself. So here we go. If you have acquired assets before you get married, which I think a lot of people are doing these days, versus walking into a marriage with nothing, most people are now planning their lives, acquiring assets, then they get married, versus getting married with nothing. That sets you up for a marriage of infidelity, by the way. Anytime you walk into a marriage empty handed, especially a man, from the man's perspective, not the woman, because traditionally everyone thinks the man is supposed to be the provider. So if you walk into a relationship empty handed as a man, you are setting yourself up for a lifelong relationship of infidelity, because that woman, when the needs of the family cannot be met, she is likely to find the arms of another man who is likely to meet the needs of the family. I mean, I've seen this personally myself. There was this lady at one point, I know she was married to, well, she wasn't married. She was living in a relationship with a guy. She has children out of wedlock for the guy. I think the guy was trying to do his own business. They weren't that advanced in age or anything. And, the lady, she was hustling with other people's men just to meet the needs of her household. She was going to other men for her nails and her hair. People do all kinds of crazy stuff when they lack financial support. So you've got to be careful. So if somebody has the financial with all to enter into a marriage, you need to protect that. And how do you protect that? The first step you will need to do is talk to the person you're intending to marry. Don't just run and jump into a relationship, jump into a marriage without first protecting your future. Think about your future. Think about what it would be like if you go into a marriage, see down the road, because like I said, you can plan for yourself, but you can't plan for the other person. You can't guarantee somebody's not going to cheat. You can't guarantee somebody's not going to leave a relationship for whatever reasons, but you can plan for yourself. So before you even go down the aisles and say, I do, think about what your future might hand you. What if you get lucky and you get super rich? And when you get super rich, the person you're with say, well, I need half of everything that you got and I'm leaving you. Instead of that happening to you, plan your life. Say, listen, let's do a prenuptial. Let's agree that whatever you acquired during the marriage is yours. Whatever I acquired is mine. If I would like, as a man, to shower my wife with gifts and to buy her a house, and to do things for her during the marriage, that's different. And if she decides that she wants to divorce, then she can have that. She can leave with that. But my assets that I have acquired prior to getting into the marriage, I would like to keep that. And this goes for women because there's a lot of successful women these days. There's a lot of women who are not dependent on a man for financial support. There's a lot of women who can hold on to their own. They have their own house, they have their own businesses, they're making tons of money. And I say to those women, you need to protect yourself and be proactive. A lot of times men come or goes into a woman's life and charms the woman, sweeps her off of her foot, and she forgets that she has assets to protect. I'm pretty sure everybody know about the Mary J. Blige situation where she divorced and she ended up paying alimony to that ex-husband. A lot of money she ended up paying to him. So I want this to be from both sides of the fence, both angles. Both men and women must think and consider the ramifications of their actions before getting into a marital situation. You don't want to find yourself in the boat that you can't navigate in treacherous waters. You want to be able to navigate safely and get ashore safely. So if you get yourself into a situation where you say, okay, I'm going to marry this person, but you're not on equal financial footing with the person lacks the ability to be self-sufficient, self-providing to themselves. The best and the safest way to do that is to say, let's get this pre-nuptials. Let's enter this agreement before we get married, before we say I do. Let's do this. Let's take care of this. And you go to see an attorney and you encourage your spouse or your intended spouse that they should also see an attorney, get advice, and make sure they're doing the right thing before you both enter into that agreement, where in that agreement it will be tailored. So it will say the assets that you've acquired before getting married will remain your separate asset. And not only that, it will also say that the marriage, the assets you acquired during the marriage also in both parties, on the side of both parties, not just one spouse, but both sides, whatever assets they acquire during the marriage will remain their separate assets. And I think that's a good thing to do. So, but both parties are protected, more so the moneyed spouse, because most of the times the money spouse is the one who ends up getting hurt versus the non-moneyed spouse. A lot of the time the non-money spouse just enter into that relationship for financial support. I've known situations where a spouse said to the other spouse, you're just a meal ticket. Once the party are not on good terms no more and the spouse is leaving the relationship. And if you find yourself in a situation where your spouse see you as a meal ticket and you didn't have a prenuptial, you will be in a lot of trouble, because then you're going to lose so much of your assets. And like I said, guys, you don't want to start over again. It's better for the non-moneyed spouse, the spouse who came into the relationship with nothing, to go without nothing and let that person start over, than you who have worked so hard to acquire your assets, to put yourself in a financially stable situation, for you to go start all over. That will never be good for you. So it's best for you to think about these things up front and protect yourself. Even if your spouse doesn't know what you're doing, make sure you protect yourself before you even enter into that relationship with that person. Don't take chances, because when you take chances and you find yourself before these judges, remember, I say the judge doesn't care about your emotion. The judge doesn't care about what you've gone through. The judge doesn't care if you came from rags to riches. The judge does not care about all of that. All the judge care is that you must be responsible for that non-money spouse, because they don't want the state to take care of that person. And this is not true for a country like Ghana. These say a lot of these things I'm telling you is more applicable to the United States because of the way the law is structured. The law doesn't protect you and your wealth. It doesn't protect you and your assets. It protects the state. And a lot of people don't know this fact. A lot of people think, okay, the law is geared to be balanced. There's no balance in the law. The law, because remember, it's a judge with human attributes just like you and I. They have biases, prejudice, all sorts of crazy stuff going on with a lot of these judges. Some of them are not even mentally stable, but you wouldn't know that going and dealing with that person sitting on a bench. You're going there for that person to make a life altering decision for you. Why would you want somebody to make a life altering decisions for you when you can take that into your hands up front and make that determination for yourself? And I know no matter how many times I come up here and I tell you guys that you should work your situation out first before you let a judge work it out for you, most people are still going to end up before the court, and the court is going to have to make that decision for you. I've had situations where clients, they try to talk their spouse through to let's come to an amicable decision. But like I said earlier in this program, fools rush in where wise men fail to tread or fear to tread. Wise men sometimes don't want to tread those paths because they know what the result is going to be. But fools always rush in. A fool would always want to rush in and say, well, you know what? I don't believe this. I'm going to do X and I'm going to do Y. Work out your differences up front. A lot of times the non-money spouse is the one that is hanging on to the tin thread. They want to go to court. The non-money spouse want to litigate because why? The non-money spouse is thinking, oh my God, they're in a bad situation financially, and they need to pull themselves up financially. So they want to get a piece of the pie. But you can stop that in its tracks by making sure you have agreements, binding legal agreements in place, that you seal tight that non-money spouse in a casket and bury them, because you do not want someone to make you unhappy for something that you've built over many years. Most people spend years on years on years of building their assets, and you don't want that to be torn down by some person that you accepted into your life and you decided to help that person at their lowest point, and then the person wants to turn things around. You cannot allow it to happen. Make sure you put agreements in place, because a lot of times you people, I keep telling you about the ones of the ones who go and marry people back home from their home country and then they bring them here. A lot of times those people don't have the capacity to earn the amount of income that is required to make them self-supporting, because we know, like, in Guyana, the education level is very low. A lot of people are high school dropout, or even if they finish high school, they don't have the requisite qualifications. So when you bring them to the United States, they're starting from ground zero. They got to go get a high school diploma. Then they have to go back to college. They have to start from scratch. And by the time that spouse is where you at, it's already too late in life. They're like in the 40s or 50s or whatever age they might be, and then to go at that point and bill, it's ridiculous. So it's better to be safe than sorry. I had a client, he went all the way to his home country and marry a woman, brings the woman back here. There was like a 14, 15 years age gap between them. He brings her here. Things went good in the beginning. They had 2 children when she had no money. She had nothing. Brings her here. She went back to school, set herself up financially. And then when she was financially capable, she decided she wanted to divorce this guy. And I guess the guy had his own faults also. He couldn't have been perfect. Otherwise, I don't think she would have been trying to divorce him. But there were issues in that relationship. So it ended up in court. I was representing the guy. And I can tell you, she tried to take the guy to the cleaners because she had nothing really to give to him. By the time the divorce was filed, yes, she had a job and she was getting a small pension, but he was the money spouse because he was with a union and he acquired deferred compensation, pension, hospital benefits, all sorts of benefits he'd acquired on his own by that time, because he was in this country since the 1990s and he had worked hard and acquired a lot. And the unfortunate thing is that he lost a lot of his assets because of the laws. the way the laws are written, that says that marital share has to be divided a specific way. And the only way you can overcome some of these presumptions is by spending thousands on thousands on thousands of dollars to litigate in court. And I can tell you, unfortunately, from a lot of my clients, they do not have the thousands to litigate their right to all those assets. And then you're going to have to overcome certain presumptions. So, why would you put yourself through that when there are much easier ways to get this done by getting yourself a prenuptial, or go back and look at my video on postnuptials? You know, I said some people, if you're already in a marriage, right? And let's say you want to bring that spouse from that foreign country, make sure you go take a post nuptial to that spouse and tell the spouse, listen, if you don't sign this post nuptial, my prospect of bringing you to the United States or anywhere is very, very slim. Okay? Because a lot of times those people come here and they become, used to the culture. They become Americanized, and they change the entire persona. And then they start meeting people. If it's a man, he might start meeting new women. If it's a woman, she might start meeting a new man in the new country, and then that's it for you. The person just pops up a day and tell you, hey, I would like to divorce. And then you're wondering what is going on. But the bottom line is your assets are going to be split if you don't listen and get a post or a prenuptial to make sure you protect yourself. Because like I say, marriage is not about the construct of it. I'm not talking about the romantic element of it, but the construct of it, the legal construct of it, is a financial partnership. That's really what it is. It's designed for people to acquire wealth together in a financial partnership, or whatever you might want to call a financial union, whatever you choose to call it. The bottom line is that is what it is, because the two parties are supposed to pool their wealth together. But as you and I know, that doesn't always happen. The parties are not generally pooling any wealth together. A lot of times it's just one spouse putting all the wealth into the relationship. Most of the time is the man. Fewer of the times it might be a low energy, low vibration man who's not really doing much, and the woman is doing most. Few times you will find that. You will find those types of men who are menace to society, but most of the time you'll find that it's the man that is doing all of the financial contribution to the relationship. He's taking care of the family, he's taking care of the bills, he's doing all these things to make sure that his family gets what they need and to keep the family together. But like I said, in the small minority of the case, you will find the reverse, where it's a man who is not of any benefit to society, more like a menace to society, and he's depending on the woman to be the provider. He's depending on the woman to take care of the household. And a lot of times I've seen where men like that acquire debt to their family, in that they fraudulently use their spouse's information to get credit or whatever, because they're not of any use, of much value to the family dynamics. And that's the minority. And those are people, by the way, you have just got to protect yourself from. Protect your assets at all costs. Now, if you're here watching this show and you're wondering, how do I protect my assets? Or even if you already got yourself entrapped into a marriage and now you're experiencing problem, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and just call me at 718-877-3100. I'm here available to give you free advice. There's a free 15 minutes consultation, which you'll be entitled to. I can give you all the information you would need to help you to protect that asset. Or if there's not a way to protect it, it's too late, then I can give you the best possible advice as how you can navigate your way out of that marriage without being too hurt financially. And like I said, a lot of times, because of the way people's assets are tied up, a lot of times people decide against getting the divorce because it's more stressful divorcing when you have so many assets tied up than it is just sticking it out and deal with a cheating or a malicious partner that you feel is not right for you. But just remember, like I said, that marriage, that legal marriage license or marriage certificate that you got after you married that spouse, it's not for romantic involvement. It's just so the law will demarcate your territory and classify the two of you as one based on your assets and your financial liabilities. It has nothing to do with your love or your relationship with your children or nothing of the sort. The law basically bundle you, so the weak must pull the strong must pull the weak, or whatever the dynamics is just for you to have a financial partnership together with each other. So if you're already in a situation and you need help to navigate your way out, to figure it out, just give me a call. The phone number, again, like I said, is 718-877-3100. Free 15 minutes consultation is available to you. So give me a call. Now, our office is located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. This weekly session of The Law and You is brought to you by my firm, Washington Law Firm, which is located in Brooklyn, New York. Now, I encourage you guys who have watched the show today to share the link, share the live, so that the people who this information might be applicable to will be able to access it. There are a lot of people out there looking for information of how to navigate their way in and out of tumultuous marriages, and the best way is by word of mouth, by you sharing the information, sharing the live, or just giving somebody the phone number and encouraging them, if they need consultation, to call the number to get the help that they need. Guys, today, thank you again for joining me live every Saturday at 4 p.m. I'm here live every single Saturday at 4 p.m. So don't miss any of the sessions. I bring to you information that is helpful. It might not be for you, but it might be a brother, a sister, a neighbor, or somebody who might be interested in this information. You can simply share that information with that person, share this live with them. We're also available on YouTube. You can watch the videos on YouTube or on Facebook. And if, like I said, the phone number is there, 718-877-3100. You can call if you're interested in consultation. Now, I know I speak a lot about divorces, but we also provide support, or we provide legal help in terms of personal injuries cases. So there are other cases, tort cases, that our firm do. So if you need any legal help, give us a call. The fact is, one of the most relevant things that affects people outside of personal injuries is divorces. The personal injuries are simple, straightforward in terms of what you can do, but the divorce is one of the most pressing topics that I see a lot of people are experiencing problems on problems with. So if you need help, I'm saying give us a call. Thank you again for joining me this Saturday afternoon live for The Law and You. Guys, I will see you again next Saturday at 4 p.m. I will be joining again live. I encourage you to come, invite your friends, your family, whoever, to watch the live. Thank you again, guys, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.